All right, welcome you back right here on the Q Breakfast TV edition. Now, hashtag it is the educare segment, and hashtag we're talking about how students can excel in their academic studying. Now, I have Ascent. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, correct.
Thank you. And of course, Mathews Musonda, who will be able to explain more on how students can specifically excel with their academic study. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the lady, I'm the gentleman.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How is the court treating you?
Oh, I feel like you have the code, so I should be asking you that question. You have some flu with you.
Exactly.
I hope you don't leave it with me.
No.
Anyway, it's all well.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're taking care of yourself.
Exactly.
And later on, I might be able to tell you some tips on how on our health tip though. I might be able to tell you on some few things, natural remedies that you can use so that you don't catch and spread the code everywhere.
Okay. All right. I appreciate.
All right. So we're talking about academic studying. So, what is the first key thing every student need to consider in order to thrive in his or her studies? I'm gonna start with you.
No, let's start with Mr. Ascent. Yeah.
The boy is the one.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think the first and most important thing that every student needs to realize is that the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Before you get into school, I think you need to know why you are into school.
Yes.
And what that program that you are doing, why you are doing that particular program. I think from that, then that's when you'll be able to know that even as you go into there, you know what you're going there to do.
Mm-hmm.
Many are the students that go into university without knowing the purpose why they're into university.
Yes.
Or you may start doing a program that you basically have no interest into, and you don't really know, but you just think at the end of this program I'm going to graduate and I'm going to maybe get a job and I'll start getting paid. These are the people we see that even as they start working, they don't really enjoy what they are doing. So the first thing to academic success is knowing the purpose, knowing the purpose why you are doing that particular program, because it helps you, it sets the tone for the whole lot of your study years. And when you do that, then even as these other things are coming, like study tips, whatsoever, you'll be able to apply them because the interest has already been generated at first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to that, I think I read a certain quote by somebody. Though that person is anonymous, they didn't want to put their name.
Yeah.
The quote said that he who knows the how will always have a job.
Okay.
But he who knows the why will always be the boss.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you understand why you are doing what you are doing, not only the why doing, but also why that particular course is there. For those who are in university, that gives you a to prepare adequately and also to make sure that you cultivate the interest and the energies that are required for you to perform very well and thrive.
Yeah.
So, but for those maybe who are at a secondary level, they could be wondering, say, but how can I know that about the subjects that because them they have a lot of subjects that they have to tackle. Even for them, they must understand why they are in that particular school, what they are doing in that school, because again that also is what makes a difference between those that go to play and those that just focus on studies, the reason of the why. It will also make you stable when you are tempted to follow friends who have gone to drink and smoke. Once you understand why you are in school, then you'll be able to utilize the time very well. Yeah.
All right. Okay, now how can students organize their studying habits?
Basically, it starts from the classroom.
Okay.
Studying doesn't start when you sit at the table and start perusing. No. It begins from way back, even your health. So let me start by first addressing the component of health. As a student, you need to make sure that you take care of your health. Yeah. I think this is an aspect that people, especially students, have neglected, where you You don't look at what you are eating. You don't look at your exercise routine, your sleeping habits. So first of all, make sure that your health is in good condition.
Yes.
It starts from what you are eating. There are foods like especially sugar. There are a lot of other foods, but I'll just talk about sugar. Too much sugar has actually shown that it reduces the capacity of the brain cells to retain and use the information when you need it. Yeah, so that's like that contain too much sugar, snacks. Those, I think students should be able to avoid that. And then when we talk about sleeping, there are people that say no, students are not supposed to sleep, they're supposed to spend much time studying. It doesn't really help because science will not agree. Yeah, but we are not saying we should sleep for 9-8 hours. I think 5 hours for me, it's enough. It's good, and the best time that a student can sleep is from 22 hours to 04. These are the time you're going to wake up feeling fresh and active, and you'll be able to do any activity for the rest of the day. Yeah, exercise is very important. You can't just be seated and studying all the time. You need time to refresh. Maybe on weekends, go out, play soccer, mingle with friends. Interaction, it helps to refresh your mind. Coming to the issue of retaining information, when you go to class, you need to know how to take notes. Yeah, there are some lecturers that would come in class and just start teaching. So as a student, you need to develop an art of taking notes. When a lecturer is talking, listen first. Don't be a reporter like you write everything he or she is saying. Understand the concept, then you write it down. Understand the concept, then you write it down. There are things from class you need to know: the good sources of books, information, where to access information. We're in an age where data is everywhere. So you need to develop the art of knowing which one is a valuable source of data and which one is not. Internet, there's a lot of things there, but you need to know which sources are actually reliable for you to actually study better. And then an environment plays a key role. An environment where you are studying from. Others prefer noisy places, others prefer maybe when it's quiet at 01. It depends with how you grasp information. But make sure that there's no one, I think, who has studied with distractions. Things like TV, things like music on too much volume, I think that doesn't help. Yeah, music is good, but I would recommend there's something called white noise. Yeah, white noise is maybe sounds of rain in the background. It cools you, not where music with high beats. That one I wouldn't really recommend. It doesn't work. But things like white noise in the background, that really helps a lot. And then group study. Yeah, group study plays a key role in our understanding of information. There's one person, a study that was done, that actually says we remember 90% of the things that we do and say. Yeah, so that means that if you are able to do, meaning like present to your friends, or maybe say something, maybe you record yourself, you read an essay, you record yourself and say it, and present, you'll be able to retain 90% of that information. And so I think in those lines, if students can use those methods, I think it will really help in terms of retaining information and studying better. Yeah, and I know Mr. Musonda would also want to add something pertaining to that.
So organizing the study habits. Apart from what he has mentioned, I would advise students to also monitor their body study patterns. You must know when your brain is the most active. Yeah, that correlates with what he has said at towards the end. You must know when is your brain active, when do you study active. So I'll give, for example, myself, I'm very active in between 01 to 9. Beyond 9, I'm not active. You find that I can be on one page for hours and hours. I start at 10 and I will not understand anything. So knowing when you are active. Are you active during afternoon? Are you active during the evening? Are you active during the morning, and what time specifically? Make sure you stick to that time for your studying, and study as the hours that you can manage.
Yeah.
Me, I'm a bookwormer. I study even up to 10 hours on a book.
Okay.
Yeah, 10. From 01 to 10, I can be on a book. Others do 2 hours, even 1 hour. But then we're not saying it, if you do 10 minutes, then just do 10 minutes. Now, that's laziness. Yeah, so that is the first thing I can say. I think the other component I would love to say is that when you're organizing your studying habits, you must learn to use what we call reference system. You are able to source information from not only from one source, but from other sources as well, because one is not sufficient enough. A lecturer may teach you something, or a teacher may give you something, but if you just stick to those, and then the exam they bring broad. Those are the complaints that we receive from students, that teachers teach. My example is they are simple, but my exam, that is not the way. It's because they're not expanding outside the box. So they need to tap into other sources of information so that they have a comprehensive data.
Okay. Now, what is the best way to manage time in school so that academic excellence can be attained by students?
Okay, time management, which is a very key component to thriving. I must begin by saying we all have 24 hours, and in that 24 hours, I can say maybe 8 hours for sleep, and out of the 8, we remain with out of the 24, we remain with 16. And 16, 6 hours I can say learning. 6 hours is spent for lectures and class. We have approximately about maybe 10 or something, those hours that remain. How you utilize that time is what makes the difference, because you're going to find that for those, if it is for secondary schools, those that have prep, if you remember 4 hours of prep and lunch and supper, you're going to remain with an extra maybe 6 where you are just free. You have leisure. So when you talk about time management, you must in a university where you have programmed time there for lectures and classes and all other things like exams, if you're during the exam, make sure that you follow that. Schedule your daily routine. Begin by planning your day, because a person who does not plan, like they say, plans to fail. So it begins by planning your daily activities, and then schedule that time according to those lectures. Then utilize also the leisure time very well. It is in that leisure time, I think, that makes the whole difference. That makes those that perform better, and those that perform poor. And even those that excel while less than school. I've seen that I've had a couple of friends who are doing entrepreneurial ventures out of the 6 hours that they have in school. They are students. The 6 hours they spend on doing projects, and they're making money. So it's for me, I believe by having a strategic plan, because most of the students, what makes them fail to manage time is that they don't have a time, they don't have a plan, they don't stick to that plan. During class, this guy wants to watch football. During a lecture, this person wants to chat on WhatsApp and all those kinds of things. There is always time for everything. They stick to that. Lastly, I would say that over that is there is a principle that we call the domino effect principle. A domino effect principle is a principle that says find the most important thing and do it so that it makes other things easier to do or unnecessary to do. So the best way to manage time is also finding out what is the most important thing that I need to do at this time in this particular lecture, and then do that thing. It makes other things easier to do and follow. I believe Mr. Ascent want to.
Yeah, definitely. I think he has said much of the things. But in addition, I think I want to stress a point he mentioned on making a to-do list. Whenever you wake up in the morning, don't just wake up without a plan. As a student, every time make it a habit. When you wake up, write the things you want to do for that particular day. If it's a lecture you are attending, if it's a study you are doing, always make sure that you have a plan. You can stick it. Nowadays we have smartphones.
Yeah.
You can just jot down few points, and then by the time you are knocking off, or you are getting to bed, you start looking at, okay, this has been my day. I've done ABC. I've done this. You mark yourself. When you do that, you'll be able to track your activities and where you are spending much of your time. And so I think time really is very important, and I think if you fail to manage your time as a student, then everything else begins to crumble. And so the point is, always have a plan for the day, even for the week, even for the whole month. You can plan your activity. Doesn't mean that you just have to plan for one day. You can have a plan for a month, a week, and so on and so forth.
Okay. So how can one excel in class, especially in universities where lectures are unpredictable?
Tell you what, lecturers play a key role in our in our grades. It's a fact. I think I've seen, though studies have been done, people will tell you that if you hate a certain lecturer for that particular course, you may fail, or you may not do as you are supposed to do. And the opposite is also true. If you like the lecturer, you are going to be motivated to do better in that particular course. But it also doesn't mean that you have to be likable and to have too much interaction where you
start crashing.
Yes. You cross the boundary. No, it doesn't mean it has to be like this. What is there is that as a student, don't get into conflict with the lecturer. And how you can do that is that you need to, if a lecturer likes certain things, for example, likes when people attend class, don't miss class. Yes, there are students that love to miss class and say, "Nah, I'll just study his notes or study his books." It doesn't help. There are some lecturers that will tell you things in class when you're not there, and when he brings a test, you bring that certain thing he said and not in what is in his notes. So I think it's very important to follow the particular lecturer and what he desires of you, because when you do, you don't lose anything to humble yourself. Things like missing classes, some lecturers may look at you as someone who doesn't care. So really just do what, if it's class time, make sure you're in class. If it's study time, make sure you are studying. And then there's no harm in being competitive. You can be competitive, but at the same time, you don't need to be working alone. In university, it's not like high school where you always want to be number one. In university, we work together as a team, because no one really holds the whole knowledge. Knowledge doesn't stay in one head. So you need to interact with a brother, a sister. You know what, you put things together. But it doesn't mean you cannot go an extra mile to study. When you meet as a group, you can equally go and study more. You share with your friends, and then you can find that you're doing well in that particular class. And I'm sure maybe you would want to add on something as well.
In addition, students should also aim to improve their listening abilities. There are 3 levels of listening. The first level, which is the lowest, is listening to respond. There are those people who have cultivated that habit where they can't really wait to grasp what the person is trying to say. Immediately you are without even finishing, they want to respond. Now, especially in universities, it doesn't work like that. So you must cultivate your listening. Make sure you reach the highest level, which understands a particular person when they are talking, not only words, but even in verbal actions, their body language. Sometimes lecturers in university will just look at a particular, the lecturer is teaching, they show a certain body language when they are talking about a point. You know that is the most important point. And if you are not able to listen, you can't grasp it. So that is very key to perform very well in classes. And then also make sure you study something before attending a lecture, because going in a class where you are blank is not really very good. you are going to feel like you are in hell. because, because really, when your friends are even asking questions, you are blank. The lecturer is teaching, and this also applies to secondary schools. I remember we had a teacher who would just come and you just give notes in advance, and he would just come say any questions from the notes, and if you didn't really have time to go through, you're going to remain behind. So having time to go through the notes and the topics really help for you to thrive in class.
Okay. Now, how can one study for exams and tests specifically so that he or she is able to remember what they read?
I think building on from his last point, there's what is called a curriculum. When at the beginning of any particular course, lecturers will give you a curriculum to say, this is what we are going to cover for the whole lot of this semester. So as a student, make it your habit to always have the curriculum with you. Know at which stage you are. It doesn't help you are in class, the lecturer is teaching, and you have no idea of it's like news, gospel news. It doesn't have to be like that. When you go in class, have an idea of what the lecturer is talking about. When you do that, it will even help you to understand. There are sometimes when you are studying, you understand a point in a wrong way. And when the lecturer explains it, you get actually the clear perspective. This is how it's supposed to go. And then coming to the point of studying to remember and being able to write tests. I think that is the goal of studying. But the mistake that I've seen that we make a lot of times is that we want to cram. Cramming is where you want to study at the last minute. When exams are coming next week, you are enjoying yourself, and then you realize now that you don't have time. You want to spend 10 hours, 12 hours, it doesn't help. So the best is prepare. If exams are next month, start studying now. Make sure you are ready. Prepare yourself it's not just studying and everything. You need psychology preparation, academic preparation. Everything has to be in one thing. So we don't advise the students to cram and the night before exam you are awake. It really doesn't help. And then the other thing is that if you want to be able to remember, don't study to master. Study to understand the concept, because questions will not come just the way the lecturer was teaching. You bring something that is different, and then you'll be confused because you tried to master. But when you understand the concept, for example, if it's photosynthesis, you understand the concept, the equation. Even when the lecturer structures the question in a different way, you still be able to grasp and write something because you got the concept.
Exactly.
And so if we move in that direction, I think really there's going to be change. And then the other point that I would want to say also is that when we are studying, I think I mentioned earlier, we need good sources of information. You need good books, good notes. There are sites like YouTube. These days we are privileged that technology is all over. Things like YouTube really help, especially if you haven't understood the concept in class. There are some people that when they explain, you have no choice but to understand. So I think certain sites like YouTube, make use of them. Other Google sites, if you have challenges in mathematics, there are people that are able to simplify things really for people to understand clearly. I think Mr. Musonda would also want to add from the points that I've shared.
There's a philosophical statement that I love. I normally use it. I said, do not study not to fail, but study to understand, know, and pass. There's a very big difference. When you're studying not to fail, that in itself puts you in a negative mental state, because you're studying not to fail. So if you're preparing for exams, do not prepare not to fail. Prepare to know, understand, and then pass. I want to give an example. So if I'm preparing, for example, not to fail, when I fail a test or an exam, I may commit suicide. I may not see the need of trying to go through the failure. Where did I go wrong? But if I'm studying to know, understand, and pass, when I fail, I'll go, where did I go wrong? How can I do better next time? And that gives me enough room for the mind to understand and grasp. So changing the attitude to studying to understand, helps students prepare very well. Secondly, when you're preparing for tests and exams, it's very different from when you're just mastering or knowing notes. Make use of past questions. If you are in high school, make use of past papers. If you are in university, make use of those other assignment questions and many other sources of questions that you may come across. The reason is it's very simple. If I once asked the students to define that was a high school setup, to define a cell. They told me a cell is the smallest they defined. Then I asked them a second question. Why have you defined that cell in the way you have defined it? They didn't answer. The reason the first question was easy to answer because that is what is in the notes. The second one is not in the notes. It requires them to think. That's why when you equip yourself with you acquaint yourself with question papers, it prepares you very well for the exam because you have your mind will be able to handle exam questions. So make use of that, and then you thrive in your exams.
I think also in addition, as you go through these past exam papers, sometimes pretend as if you're in the actual exam. Sit alone and put a timer there to say, in an hour, 30 minutes, I should be able to finish this paper. And when you answer, you know, pretend as if you're in an exam room. It helps you to know that I can actually think, because it's not just about information when you're writing. There's an aspect of time. If you can't finish in time, even when you know everything in the question, you're going to fail. And then the last point is that people need to take track of their records, their grades. There's a habit that we have that if I score less marks or I get 40%, 39, it's going to hit me, and I don't want to see that particular grade. But I'm here to say, if you have been recording poorly, begin to keep all those papers that you have poor grades in. When you begin to look at them, it's like you are recording your grades. When you begin to look at them, of course, it will hurt you, but it will help you in the other sense. It will help you to do better, because it is going to be hitting you that I got 39, I think I need to do better. So when you keep track of what you are doing, because what is recorded is improved. So when you keep track of your records, it helps you to do better even in the next test and assignments.
Now, as we are wrapping up, do you have any last words for the students?
You want me to start? My last words are always in the form of a quotation that I love. That a student, you are expecting good grades. But I would love to tell you that you have no right to expect a better grade if you don't make the better use of today. Because even tomorrow, when tomorrow comes, it will be called today. So it begins now. What we have shared, utilize it, make use of it, and then you shall excel.
For me, my last words, I think, as a student, you need to know why you are in school. And most importantly, you don't need to neglect God. You know, we are a Christian nation, and majority of us are Christians. So God gives us this opportunity to be in school, and I've seen people, others, when they're in school, they want to, get busy and say, no, I don't have time for church. I'm so busy, studies are too much. But find time at least to go to church, pray, and just to give thanks to God, because He's the one that gives us this opportunity to be in school and even to excel to a greater extent. So never neglect God in your studies, in whatever you're doing, and you shall prosper.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming to on the show.
Thank you for
It's
hosting
been
us.
an honor.
Indeed. All right, hashtag it was the Educate segment, and I hope you learned one or two things about how you can keep yourself updated and how you can keep yourself afloat as being a student or being a pupil. All right, so we have more jump back things for you. Make sure that you just stick around and catch us on the other side.